I still remember Onyx. Now, I haven't forgotten about it. Nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but why am I still remembering Onyx? Well, it's because my point of view is that when it comes to XCN, sure, as of right now, I mean, we take a look at it. Market cap is around 200 million, 25 cents around a 42x from here. It's gone down by quite a lot ever since not too long ago, the market cap being around a billion, which was actually not even over a year ago, right? It was less than a year ago, but I'm saying, I get it. The sentiment has changed quite significantly when it comes to Onyx. But my point of view is that when it comes to this, people like to kind of attribute it to how, because of the Goliath testnet, which is basically their layer one blockchain, but they say that because of that, oh, the price isn't doing the best. Well, I don't think that is the direct cause of it because, again, the market overall is generally not doing the best. Like some people think because it hasn't really been that talked about, that's why XCN has gone, down basically. But I don't really have that perception because let's just take a look at two other examples, I would say. When it comes to a project having something pretty amazing fundamentally happen to it, but then clearly, of course, the price isn't doing the best. Let's take a look at two other examples, right? Let's take a look at Polkadot, a project that is way more popular than Onyx. However, let's take a look at Polkadot 2.0, which was, granted a pretty big achievement, I would say, in the grand scheme of things, but what has that done to DOT, its native token? Pretty much kind of nothing, actually, as of late. I mean, it's pretty much been kind of doing what XCN has been doing, right? Let's also take a look at the Internet Computer. What big thing happened to it as of late? Something called Caffeine AI, which is a self-running ads platform. Sure, ICP had a pretty okay kind of, resurgence when it went from below slightly $3 to around $9, but then now it's below $5. So it hasn't really done too much in the grand scheme of things. Again, when we take a look at Onyx compared to those two projects, despite them having something pretty okay fundamentally happen to it, the price, generally speaking, is having a pullback because even ICP not too long ago was above $18. So now that it's like below $5, I mean, still, it's had a pretty big pullback. So when it comes to something like Onyx, I don't think it's the only one experiencing that, right? But is it necessarily a moment where I would give up? Now, my perception is that I don't have that sort of mentality because it's a little bit different than I think other aspects of what I would consider a moment where I would just not care anymore. Like, for instance, let's take a look at this coat right here, or this jacket, I would say. There's no way, right, I could ever, get what I got from this initially, because when I got it new, okay, it's at a certain price. Like, let's say it's like $100 or something like that. Like, is there any way I could ever get that, back, right? No, I mean, how can I? Unless randomly, maybe I became a rock star and I started touring, I started doing a bunch of, you know, things like that globally, and then maybe, you know what, I do an autograph and then I sell it. Who knows what it'll be, right? But then, if that is not a scenario that happens, clearly this has a depreciated in value. There's no way I can ever get that initial thing back. That's the way to take a look at it. But when it comes to a project, let's say, right? Let's say it went down for whatever reason. Like, let's say I got into Bitcoin at 100 grand. Now it's below 100 grand, right? Like, is it going to stay that way forever? I don't know about that. Is there a hypothetical moment where it could maybe go above 100 grand again? Who knows? But it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But when it comes to this coat, again, this jacket, there's no way, right? If I got it at a certain value, it's just depreciating at this point. It's either I use it or I just watch it depreciate. But of course, I want to use it because I like it. But I'm saying it's a little bit different than, again, this example that I'm using. So when it comes to, I get it, sometimes the sentiment when it comes to the space isn't necessarily the best because things are having a pullback, but who knows, things could maybe be different during an altcoin season if it ever even happens. Not to say that it will, but who knows? It's not sometimes kind of like a foregone conclusion as opposed to, let's say, I buy like a, gaming console or something like that. Like, there's no way I can get that back, Sure, I could, sell it or something like that, but I'm never going to be able to get the amount that I actually got it for. That's the way to take a look at it. So when it comes to this space, if let's say that is the case, like if let's say once something goes down, it is like permanent or something like that, then okay, whoa, that's a different case. But in this space, sometimes things go like, up and down like that. So yeah, I just haven't given up. That's my point of view. I mean, sure, people like to say that, Onyx didn't really need a layer one blockchain and all this. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, was it really necessary? Or should I say, is it super necessary, as Jorge Masvidal would say? I mean, I guess not really. I mean, they didn't really have to do that, but then they kind of did it anyway. So this is why I am still kind of a fan of what they're doing, because let's take a look at, for instance, right? Sure, it's just a test net, but it does have an aspect of Ethereum virtual machine, which I think is pretty cool considering how Ethereum is a very popular layer one blockchain. I also take a look at, when we take a look at something like, again, it's not necessarily, I think, the most revolutionary thing out there. We don't really need another layer one blockchain for the world of finance, but it's still kind of pretty impressive considering what they did nonetheless. Now, some people may argue that, okay, are they just doing this to kind of showcase that they're at least doing something? I mean, who knows? But, I mean, at least they were able to launch a testnet anyways. Other projects out there, they've been working on a testnet for what, like 3 years? And what have the results been when it comes to that, fundamentally? Not in terms of the price, but just fundamentally. So that's just the way to take a look at it. And yeah, I mean, it's still the testnet, right? It hasn't been the mainnet. And even when it comes to the mainnet aspect side of things, which they're planning to launch in Q1 of 2026, is it going to be an instant thing where it becomes popular? I highly doubt that. I think it's going to take quite a while, especially for mass adoption, if ever. But to me, at least, when it comes to something like this, I just think it's a thought that counts, really. So I guess even though the price isn't doing the best as of right now, I'm still staying patient. And also, my point of view is that within this space currently, it's not all about just the adoption, right? So even if, let's say, the layer one blockchain, again, Goliath, doesn't necessarily become something that has mass adoption, sometimes it's just kind of the narrative. I mean, we see a bunch of projects out there saying that, oh, we launched this. It's still in the testing phase, though. And then what has it really done? But then sometimes during an altcoin season, sometimes just because they even announced that, it became a narrative for whatever reason. And like, that's just the way to take a look at it. As of right now, a lot of these projects in like the top 100, top 200, some of them don't necessarily have the best adoption at all, in my perspective. They have a pretty okay narrative, right? In some cases, like they might be striving to do something, but they haven't really done much fundamentally, or I would even say, in terms of the adoption. So as of right now, just because this space is the way it is, it's not really tied to the adoption so much, which is why I am still ultimately staying patient when it comes to Onyx. Now, clearly, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Like, I have no control over this. Like, for instance, right? There's over 130,000 holders as of right now when it comes to XCN. So me being one out of the over 130,000, what can I do about XCN? Absolutely nothing. Like, I mean, seriously, what can I do about what's going on when it comes to XCN? So, in my perspective, if I know that I can't do anything when it comes to this, what am I going to do? I'm just going to stay patient, and that's about it. When is there going to be an altcoin season? I absolutely do not know, because historical performance doesn't necessarily guarantee future performance. But some people may be thinking, okay, if you're so uncertain, why would you still be a fan? It's like, for instance, I just like the project's fundamentals. I like what it's doing, so I'm going to stay patient. And also, not to mention, actually, even XCN, despite the pullback, sure, market cap's around 200 million, but when I was first believing in XCN, we take a look at that market cap right there, it was around that $40 million range. So I've seen already kind of what it did, a glimpse of it, even without an altcoin season. Sure, again, there's a pullback, but if I saw that without an altcoin season, and if I still like the fundamentals, and sure, I don't know when there's going to be an altcoin season, but if the first two criterias I saw, I'm just not going to give up. So that's my response when it comes to that. Yes, of course, I do not know when XCN is hypothetically going to have that next leg up, if ever. When I was holding XCN at around 40 million, how at one point, not long after that, it was going to reach a market cap around $1 billion. I had no clue that it was going to do that, but I was holding the entire time anyways because I just like the fundamentals. And keep in mind, it was even harder for me to hold XCN back then because what can I really take a look at historically and say, oh yeah, XCN did this recently? There was nothing like that, right? So at least right now, I saw what it did less than a year ago, basically. But only time will tell. But I'm still staying patient. I'm holding, and yeah, that's pretty much about it because I still like the core focus of Onyx nonetheless, that payments, global trade, finance space. So I'm going to stay patient, and that's literally about it, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and even though nothing I say is financial advice. But this is just my perception, my thoughts, and kind of my perspective with what I see when it comes to Onyx as of right now. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.